What's up, guys? In this video I want to talk about using being broke or penniless to motivate you to take action. So a lot of people can resonate with being penniless, or not necessarily being completely penniless or broke, but being in a state where they don't have a lot of money and they feel like they're restricted in terms of what they can purchase and in terms of their self-esteem when it comes to financial status. And I've felt this way as well. I currently do feel this way actually right now, even though I'm not penniless, but I've taken the risk of investing a lot of my capital into the stock market, but a lot of my free capital has been I haven't accounted for it, so that's a mistake that I've made, and unfortunately it's led me to the state whereby I have to survive on a very low amount of money. I have a lot of people I could ask for money, but that's not necessarily the person I am. That's not part of my personal value, so I prefer to just stick through it. But there's also some positives that might shock you in terms of having a little bit of money and consciously choosing to have a little bit of capital, as opposed to having a lot of cash and storing it in a safe. There's a lot of positive things and advantages that you could use in terms of psychology and emotional state that could drive you to take action. Take, for example, if you're unemployed. This is one of the things that this is one of the traps I fall into quite often, and I have fell into it quite often in my life. What I do is most recently I saved up about £2,500, and I didn't like working in the company I was working at. So what I did was I saved up £2,500 and I took off some time. I took some time off work around 3 months. Not only did almost immediately, I felt that I needed to go back to work, because as a male I feel an innate drive to work and to provide. I felt that I was being isolated and detached from society, which is not necessarily a psychologically or socially healthy thing to do. So what I did is I applied for a job, and I got it. So not only did I learn that it's not necessarily a healthy thing to be unemployed, it's very healthy to be employed. Not just because you're earning money, but the social aspect of it, and in terms of the personal value, emotional, intelligent aspect of it. But it's also very important to be able to continually earn money, but having a lot of free capital in terms of cash on you, and to be readily available to use, is not necessarily a healthy thing for me, because it's just sitting there doing nothing, and it's not necessarily being used for its maximum potential. So a theory that I've come up with to do in terms of removing that ego and pride attached to having a lot of cash available to me, is what I do is I use my natural instinct, my natural capitalistic instinct, to purchase as soon as I get a paycheck, and I purchase assets as opposed to purchasing liabilities. Liabilities, if you guys don't know, are goods that depreciate in value. They lower in value over time. There can be things like food, drink, expensive food and drink in particular, going to parties, buying shoes, buying cars, etc. These things go down in value over time, as opposed to buying assets. Assets are things that put money in your pocket, which means they appreciate in value as opposed to depreciating in value. Assets could be things like stocks, shares in businesses, parts of businesses. They could be a house, which always appreciates in value. It could be commodities like gold, oil, precious metals like silver, and things like diamonds and stuff like that. These things always appreciate in value. What do I mean by appreciate in value? The market, which is the majority of the people that are looking at these goods, judge that these things, these commodities, these material things, are things that are valuable to them, and the more valuable that the market, or the majority of people, the more valuable that they think it is, the higher the price. And the reason why things depreciate is because the majority of people feel that that particular commodity is not necessarily valuable to them. Take, for example, shoes. When buying a pair of shoes, you buy the shoes for yourself, not for other people. So other people aren't going to value the shoes. You are going to value the shoes, and when you value the shoes, you show that you value the shoes by using those shoes. When you use those shoes, you wear out the productivity, or you wear out the value of the shoes by causing it to become dirty, etc. And the value that other people have for the shoes are decreased. So besides the point of that, I want to talk about being broke and using that as motivation. You don't even need to necessarily consciously choose to allow being broke to motivate you to take action. Being broke will naturally manifest as a motivation and as a drive to get yourself back up and to survive, because human beings naturally, as animals, seek to survive. That's one of our base instincts, survival. So what you want to do is, I want to give you some examples that might make this message a bit clearer. Take, for example, if you don't have a lot of money. your thought patterns begin to change, because not you don't think about buying food from outside. You actually start to think of, how can I eat, how can I still consume food, how can I fill my belly without having to spend a little bit of money that I need to survive, and spend that money on more useful things. So you start to see different options. So your brain patterns change, and you become more frugal in terms of and more efficient in terms of using your resources. And using your resources more efficiently is always a plus. So what does that mean? If you have more money, that means that if you have more money, you're likely to spend your money in a less efficient way. But that's not necessarily the case in terms of everyone. But some people, when it comes to having free cash, which I don't necessarily think is a positive thing, it's easy to think that this money can be used to spend, and your mind automatically says, let me go and buy. But it shows you the different options in terms of what you can spend your money on. And most of the time, it doesn't show you assets that you can buy, spend the money on. It shows you depreciating liabilities, and that's not necessarily your fault. It's just based on the fact that the option of investing in assets aren't necessarily an option in your mind. You haven't been taught that assets are a good thing to spend your money on, because it's not immediately consumable. You can't consume assets. You can't consume a house. Um, you can't consume stocks. You can consume them in terms of buying them, but you can't consume them in terms of using them automatically and then not having them afterwards. So these things are definitely things you want to spend your money on. It'll it'll make you feel, it'll give you that rush of endorphins in terms of positive emotions, knowing that you've bought something, because you always get a positive feeling when you buy something. It'll still give you that rush of positive emotion but it also give you another rush of positive emotion knowing that you're investing in something smart. You have this sense of self-esteem, knowing that your money isn't necessarily gone or given to someone else, but it's still with you to a certain extent. And it will also motivate you to learn about what you're investing in, because you will always want to know what you're investing in. You don't want to just give your money blindly to some organization or to some person, not knowing what they're going to do with it, or where the money is going, or how it's going to be utilized. So learning about investing in assets, and learning about assets in general, learning how to multiply your money, learning how to make your money grow and work for you, is definitely probably the most important financial lesson you can learn. So being broke and being penniless, let me talk about that. So when you have a little bit of money, as I said earlier, it has the opposite effect of having a lot of money. When you have a lot of money, or have more money than you would need at that particular point in terms of free cash available to spend, you have a certain confidence, and I would dare to say overconfidence in terms of how stable you are. You become comfortable, and you don't necessarily feel the need to work. So I feel that motivation is the most important thing in terms of moving yourself to action. Drive, sex drive, whatever different types of motivations there are to drive people to act, are the essence of life. Without these drives, I would agree that the person will become a robot. Or not necessarily a robot, because the human being's programming is based on motivation, not necessarily whereby a robot, an artificial robot created by a human being, their drive is based on programming. We're not necessarily programmed in the same way an emotionless robot is. We are programmed to use our drives and emotions to push us to act in a certain way, to achieve a certain goal. So what you want to do is you want to use your innate drives and emotions to drive yourself to perform a certain act and to reach a certain goal. And you could see this principle or theory or practice as somewhat manipulating yourself, or manipulating your mind, or tricking yourself. But it's a positive way to trick yourself if you want to look at it that way. So let me get back to the core of this situation. So what you want to do is you want to spend the majority of your money, but not too much money. You want to calculate this efficiently. You want to allocate a certain amount of money that you're going to need per month, or whatever period that you get paid. You want to split that up into certain proportions. One part you want to use or save for what you're going to need in terms of consumables, food, drink, etc. What you want to buy for other people, and stuff like that, transport, whatever it may be. Whatever's left over, you want to spend on investments in appreciating assets. And the reason why I haven't included saving is because saving isn't very you're saving money in terms of cash is basically a useless thing. You're actually losing money if you save money in cash, because your money depreciates in value every single year, in terms of depreciation when it comes to the banks, because seen as we're on a paper currency now called fiat money, which isn't necessarily backed by gold or silver or any appreciating asset. The value of the cash that we're using in terms of paper will gradually over time depreciate to its innate value, which is zero, because paper is valueless. It has no value. So what you want to do is you want to use that paper at the time that it's at its highest value, which is today, the current time, and you want to buy assets which will go up in value, as opposed to keeping that cash in terms of paper, which will decrease in value. So it's kind of like hot potato. You get the cash and you throw it to someone else. Well, not someone else. You throw it into an organization which can actually utilize that money better than you are, because you won't actually utilize that money if you're saving it. It's just staying in a safe gathering dust. If you actually invest that into a company, you can give that to the managers of the company, who can utilize that money into productive work, in terms of employing new staff, employing new gadgets, to be able to allow the company to grow more at a faster pace and provide more output, and therefore increasing profit over time, therefore giving you dividends. A dividend, if you guys don't know, is basically paying the investors, which you will be paying the investors a certain percentage of the profits related to how many shares they own. So it will be earnings per share. So what you want to do is divide your income, or every single piece of cash that you have. You want to divide that into parts, and part of it will go to buying assets. It doesn't necessarily have to be stocks and shares. Stocks and shares for me is the easiest way to invest, the easiest investing instrument. So I choose stocks and shares. Warren Buffett agrees that stocks and shares, investing in the stock market, is the easiest thing you can do in terms of investing in anything, any asset. So put that for investment. Investing and saving are in the same group. I categorize them as the same group. What you want to do is have a certain amount of money per month that you invest into stocks and shares. I would say invest quite a bit, a large proportion of the amount of money you that you earn. But only do this if you know what you're doing. Do as much research as you can, to be able to get closer to certainty as to how your money will to the status of your money. You don't want your money to depreciate too much, because that means you didn't do enough research. Don't invest in risky stocks. Every investment is a risk, but it's only a risk to the degree that you don't know what you're doing. So put some money away for investment, and put some money away for what you need in terms of food, consumables, etc. Apart from that, that's the end of this video. I've pretty much exhausted every single piece of information relevant to this topic inside my brain. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.